everyone. Oops. Hi everyone and welcome back to another sewing tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how I made this linen tiered maxi dress with a shirred or shirred. Hey Siri, how do you pronounce shirred? Hey Siri.
Shirred.
Shirred. Hi everyone and welcome back to another sewing tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how I made this tiered linen maxi dress with a shirred detail at the waist. I also added some thicker straps and a ruched detail on top. This is a pretty easy tutorial as always. It is beginner friendly. Even though you haven't shirred before, this is also my first time shirring, so I will show you exactly how this works. I hope you enjoyed this video, so let's go ahead and make the dress.
So to make this dress you'll need about 2.5 to 3 meters of linen fabric. Pure linen is usually not the best choice for these kinds of dresses. You'll need something that is lighter weight, so I've gone for a linen blend. This is 70% viscose and 30% linen. Then you'll need fabric scissors, an elastic thread, a normal thread that matches the color of your fabric, a measuring tape, some pins and a pencil or a chalk, about 1 meter of elastic band that is half a centimeter wide, and if you have a tube turner that's great, if not you can manage without it as well. Now I'll show you what measurements you'll need to take and how to create your own pattern. The pattern is basically only made out of rectangles, and the first rectangle will be the top, so the bodice of your dress. And for this you'll need your bust circumference. The length of your top will be your bust circumference times 1.5, and the width will be the distance between the top of your dress and your waist. So basically you can measure from where your bra straps end, so where the cups begin, down until where you want your dress to sit, and this will be in my case the waist. And then add about 10 centimeters to this measurement. The next 3 rectangles will be the tiers for our dress. The first one has the exact same length as your top. And to determine the width of your tiers, you'll need to measure from your waist down to your ankle and divide this measurement by 3. The length of your second tier will be the length of your first tier times 1.5, and the length of your third tier will be the length of your second tier times 1.5. The width always remains the same. And the last 2 rectangles will be your straps. Mine were 46 centimeters long and 7 centimeters wide, but I recommend you try the dress on and measure then. And also you can make them thinner or thicker as you prefer. Now that you have all of your measurements written down, you can go ahead and cut out your fabric. If your fabric has a pattern, you might need more of it, since you have to place the pieces for your dress so that everything lines up. But if you are using a plain fabric, you don't have to worry about it, and you can cut out the pieces as you like. And since we are working with so many rectangles, I decided to write on each one before cutting it out what tier it is, so that it will be easier for me to put them together later on. So here are my fabric pieces. This is the top, the first, the second and the third tier. I'm going to set the skirt part aside for now, and we are going to go on and work on the top first. And I am starting with the ruched detail at the very top of your dress. And for this we'll need to add a tunnel for the elastic band. So first I'm folding the edge of my fabric about half a centimeter inwards, and I'm pressing it using an iron. Then I'm folding the same edge of the fabric once again, this time about 2.5 centimeters, and you want to make sure that the elastic band fits in the tunnel. Then I'm pressing this edge once again using my iron, and then we can start sewing. First sew a straight stitch on the edge of the folded fabric, and then a second one at about 1 centimeter away from the first one, and this will create the tunnel for the elastic band. So here is where you will insert your elastic and the upper part will get ruched. Before we move on, you will need this measurement. So basically, if you are wearing a bra, you can measure the cup. And for me, this was 15 centimeters. And I'm using this measurement to measure from the first straight stitch downwards. And I am making a mark right there at 15 centimeters. And from that point downwards, I am drawing straight lines across that are 1 centimeter away from each other. And these will be the guidelines for the shirring part. And this is my first mistake. So as you can see, I'm working on the wrong side of the fabric, but you actually need to work on the right side of your fabric. So you have to use a pencil that washes out or some tailor's chalk to draw your lines. And you'll need to work on the right side of the fabric because the machine is threaded with a normal thread that matches the color of your dress, but the bobbin will be your elastic thread. And if you don't have the same colored elastic thread as your fabric, it will show on the right side of your dress, and I don't think it looks that nice. So just make sure you use a pencil that can be washed out, or you can also use your presser foot as a guide. Okay, so welcome to the shirring lesson. First, you'll have to wind your bobbin by hand using your elastic thread, of course, and you'll have to be careful not to pull the elastic thread while you wind your bobbin. So I'm going to fast forward this part. It looks like I'm pulling, but I'm not, I promise. Now place the bobbin in your sewing machine, and the upper thread will be just your normal thread in a color that matches your fabric. So thread your machine as you usually would. And now, while you pull your elastic thread out, you'll have to make sure that it goes through the tension disc. So since this is an elastic thread, it can easily snap while you pull it, and it doesn't get caught on the tension discs, and this makes your shirring basically non-existent. I made this mistake at first until I figured out what the problem was. But if you have a sewing machine that has a bobbin that comes out with its case, you won't have this problem, I think. But if your sewing machine looks like mine, this is how the thread should look. So here it is caught in the tension disc. I have a Brother VQ2, by the way. Now the machine settings. I'm going to set my machine to a straight stitch. Also set your machine to a long stitch length. In my case, this is 5. And I'm also going to go up with the tension from 4, which is default, to about 6.5. And before you start shirring your dress, I recommend you try shirring a piece of fabric. Ideally, you would use the exact same fabric as you do for the dress, just to get an idea of how it will look like. And you can play around with the tension and the stitch length if it doesn't work out as well as you thought it would. But this is basically how it should look like. If yours doesn't stretch as much as this, you might want to go down with the tension on your sewing machine. And finally, you can go ahead and shirr your dress. Just follow the lines you drew and sew straight stitches across. Instead of stopping and sewing back and forth every time I reach the end, I'm going to lift my presser foot and go downwards and then go ahead and sew the next line. And this way I won't use up as much elastic thread as I normally would if I would stop every time I reach the end of my fabric. And this is how my shirt top looks like. I left about 3 centimeters here at the bottom because I tried it on and it already reaches my waist. So I'm just going to leave it like this. Now take your elastic and a safety pin and pull your elastic through the tunnel. To determine the length of your elastic, just wrap it around your chest and add about 2 centimeters seam allowance. And now that this is done, we are going to set our bodice aside for now and work on the skirt part. So here are the 3 tiers for my skirt. First, you can sew a zigzag stitch on the edge of the fabric to make sure it doesn't fray. And then you'll want to sew a straight stitch using a long stitch length across the top of your second tier, and then do the same thing for the top of your third tier. And this is how we are going to lightly gather the fabric and create that tiered effect. So set your machine to the longest stitch length possible. As I've said, mine is 5, and then make sure you don't sew back and forth at the ends of your fabric. As you can see, it already gathers a bit while sewing, but if this is not enough, you can go ahead and lightly pull on a thread and then move the ruching around using your fingers. Take your first tier and place it flat on your table. The ruched second tier should have now the same length as your first one. Place them one on top of the other, right sides facing each other. Pin them together and sew a straight stitch across, making sure you sew underneath your first one so that the ruching stays in place. And after you've attached your first tier to the second one, you'll need to do the same thing with the second and the third one, if that makes sense. So basically, you'll need to have all 3 tiers sewn together. And this is how it should look like. So this is the skirt part. But I think I'm going to gather the top as well from the first tier, just to be able to attach the top part easily. Your shirt top and the first tier of your dress have the same length, so you should be able to connect them without having any problem. But just to make it easier for myself, I've gone ahead and gathered the first tier of the skirt as well. Now place your bodice on top of the first tier of your skirt, right sides facing each other, and pin them together. You might have to lightly pull on your top just to make them fit. And now sew them together using a straight stitch. I'm going to sew 1 centimeter away from the last row of shirring. And this is how my dress looks like now. Now you'll need to connect the ends of your elastic. Just pin them together and sew a zigzag stitch. And then fold your dress like this to close it up. Pin the sides together and sew it using a straight stitch. I then hemmed my dress by folding the edge of the fabric inwards twice and pinning it in place. For the straps, I've cut out 2 pieces of fabric that are 46 centimeters long by 7 centimeters wide. I folded them in half, sewed them using a straight stitch on the side. Then I turned them right side out using a tube turner, but you can also use a safety pin. And before I sewed them on, I tried my dress on and pinned the straps in place. And the last step is to sew your straps in place. And now you've got yourself a self-made tiered linen shirred summer dress. And this is the final look. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. I hope my instructions were clear, and I hope that even if you are a beginner at sewing, you can do this dress. If you do recreate this dress, please tag me on Instagram or send me a message. I would love to see your creations. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and I'll see you in my next one. Thank you for watching. Bye!